Use the yellow Measure hard key to select a previous setup for measurement. On a variable frequency drive, it's recommended to re-enter the actual running speed value, as the speed will vary with the load. The numbers at the top of the drivetrain image indicate the measurement locations. Choose the first location and mount the sensor. Typically, rotating equipment will vibrate in 3 different directions or axes. The triaxial sensor can collect vibration signals from these 3 axes simultaneously. Sensor orientation screens help the tester understand from which axes vibration signals are coming. By testing certain points along the entire drivetrain rather than a single component, the tester can account for transient vibration from other sources and give you a more comprehensive diagnosis. The sensor needs to be located as close as possible to the bearing or on a solid structural member leading to the bearing. You can select any of these measurement locations to start. From these marked locations, you can place the sensor either at the top, bottom, side, or end. Take vibration measurements when the machine is running at a steady state and at normal operating temperature. All of the measurements must be completed within 30 minutes to minimize the risk of varying load conditions affecting the diagnosis. If the drive motor has more than 40 horsepower and is longer than 40 inches, it's recommended to take 2 measurements from each component in the drivetrain. Otherwise, 1 measurement from each component will suffice. Push Enter to select location number 1. For this demonstration, we first put the sensor on the motor's free end at the top, where the cable is perpendicular to the shaft. Whenever possible, place the sensor parallel or perpendicular to the shaft. Attach the sensor to a clean, flat, bare metal surface. Avoid thin surfaces like shrouds or uneven surfaces like cooling fins. Thick layers of paint, grease, oil, or other matter will reduce both the holding force of the magnet and the high-frequency response of the sensor. Take care when attaching a magnetically mounted sensor. Hold the sensor firmly and roll it carefully onto the test surface to prevent any jarring and potential damage to the sensor. Press F3 or Enter, or use the dial to select the orientation. In this case, we located the sensor at the top of the motor rather than the bottom, side, or end, and perpendicular to the drive shaft. Having completed the sensor orientation, we're ready to collect data. Push F3 to begin. Once that's done, push F4 to continue on to the next location. If the orientation of the sensor remains the same in terms of location and cable direction, hit Copy Last to use the last orientation information. It's important to use the same orientation each time you take measurements at any given location to maintain consistent diagnostic records. The tester also has onboard context-sensitive help to provide practical information on a variety of subjects, from sensor placement and orientation to interpreting the diagnostic output.